Thank you so much for being with us tonight for this special edition of WVUA News at 6 live from South Florida. Our special BCS coverage, The Road to 15. I'm Lynn Brooks.
And I'm Gary Harris. We're in Fort Lauderdale with the Intercoastal Waterway right behind us and a lot of expensive yachts passing by.
Yeah,
I've taken notice.
A lot of very nice ones. A few with Bama flags.
Yeah, one just went by with a big Bama flag.
They were yelling, "Roll Tide," and we hope that you've been along with us on this journey. We're taking you not only to notice what's going on the field and the game action, but we also want to give you a little taste of what this area has to offer. A lot of people, certainly Bama fans, enjoying this area. But first, of course, we want to talk football.
Yeah,
Gary.
that's the reason we're all here. There's no doubt about it. This is an historic matchup between Alabama and Notre Dame. The first time since following the 1974 season that they met for the national championship. They met 2 years in a row in 73 and 74. Now, there was a press conference this morning with Alabama defensive coordinator Kirby Smart and selected defensive players, including senior captain defensive end Damian Square from Houston, Texas. Now, Damian was a highly recruited player out of Yates High School in 2009, and he could have gone anywhere in the country, including Notre Dame. More on that coming up later on. But he chose Alabama when the program wasn't at the level that it's at now.
And for him to decide to come to Alabama over all the choices he had, he was one of the first guys that knew, hey, this was gonna be, he came when the program wasn't as good. And that's a great commitment to him. He went through a really tough knee injury his freshman year, overcame that, and has become one of our best leaders we've ever had here. And the players respond to him. I always say leadership is about how they respond to you. Well, they respond to Damian, and they respect the work that he's done.
For me, just the development all around, as a player, as a father, as a son, as a man, coming here to the university, they expect you to do things a certain way. And they hold you accountable for that at all times, So, and that's kind of how I live my life now. It's kind of tough for my wife at home because I'm a straightforward guy when it comes to getting things done because that's how they handle me, So that's how I handle my home, and I think that's the best way to do it, So just the development all around,
And Lynn, what a great kid Damian Square is. I've gotten to know him well during his career at Alabama. He is first class, father, husband, and great football player. There's plenty of game fanfare to keep fans busy, but there's a lot more than just the game for folks to do here in South Florida.
You can, if you're looking for adventure, you can certainly find one here in this area. I had a chance to go to a local fishery today. The big tradition there, a long-standing tradition, is going out and feeding the tarpon. You go and buy a little bag of shrimp. They're $3, and you can look for one of these monster fish. They're called the Silver King. That's their nickname. Some of these can live 50, sometimes 60 years. They can get up to 8 feet long. Sometimes these guys can weigh as much as 300 pounds.
Wow.
So they are monster fish. They date back to prehistoric time, and when you see these fish, you can see why. They're just incredible to watch. Their size and their strength are just really impressive. You don't want to eat one, that's for sure, but if you could feed one, it's quite an experience. I talked to Brandon Dunlop from Lauderdale Pier, and he knows a lot about the tarpon that call that dock their home.
The ones that we have in here, we have about 7 or 8 of them. They're about range anywhere between 90 to 160 pounds. The one that's the biggest is, we call him Grandpappy. He's about 160-pound tarpon. Pretty much, they're just the big silvery fish. They're not great to eat. A lot of people don't like the way they taste.
And it turns out tarpon are actually nocturnal, so you get a lot more of them if you go at nighttime. And I will say, if you ever want to try that out at the fishery, be careful of the birds. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, you found that out the hard way.
Yeah, I was holding out one of those little shrimpies, and here came a bird to swoop
in. The birds are looking to eat, too.
That's true.
Let's just say that. Well, much more in terms of what there is to see and do here in South Florida. Our reporter, Travis Leader, part of our crew here in Fort Lauderdale, has been working on highlighting some of the unique parts of this area. He joins us now with a look at his trip to the Vizcaya Museum and Gardens. Travis?
Yes, thanks, guys. This century-old house is a historical landmark, not only in Miami, but it's also registered in the National Registry of Historic Places by the federal government. Now, while this house is very unique, the acres of gardens outside the building are even more picturesque. Now, I spoke with Deputy Director of Advancement, Dennis Fruitt, during our tour of the property. First off, Dennis, tell us just a little overview of this beautiful building that we have behind us.
Sure. Vizcaya was built by James Deering, and he decided that he was going to recreate an estate that resembled the types of estates that you would have found in the Tuscany region of Italy. So that's why it has the style that it does.
We got a lot of people here today, I already
Yes.
see, and it's very steady. You must have a lot of people from around the world that show up here.
We do. In the course of a year, we welcome a little over 180,000 visitors, many of whom, about 15%, come from countries outside of the United States.
Now let's talk about the gardens. Obviously, maybe even more of a highlight than the actual building itself. Talk about the gardens and how did it become so vast and lush?
His vision for the gardens was that they would be exterior rooms, gardens that you would migrate from one to another, with the beautiful central garden in the French-Italian style, leading up to what's known as the Garden Mound. But you're right, the gardens are just as spectacular as the main house is.
If you had to make a pitch as to why they should come here and visit, what would you say?
Well, Vizcaya is one of those enchanted estates, historic sites in America. So if you're a fan of architecture, history, and art and gardens, here's the place to be.
We are coming to you live from South Florida, where all the action will go down as the Alabama Crimson Tide battles it out for its 15th national championship. Gary, the fans could not be more excited.
Yeah, thousands of them are making their way here to South Florida for the big game. Some have tickets, some don't, but they're coming anyway. But still, there'll be thousands more back in Alabama and neighboring states that will be planning big watch parties for the game on television.
Yeah, back at the University of Alabama, a lot of opportunities for students there to watch the game and get in on all the BCS action. The university actually hosting a national championship tailgate and viewing party. That's going to be at the Ferguson Center right there at the Capstone. Organizers are saying there'll be free food. That always brings the students when you say food. And also for the first 250 students, free t-shirts, so you get some free swag there. We talked with Jordan Bonstrom with the University of Alabama, who told us it's a great way for students to share this experience together.
We just like to give campus residents and students here on campus just a place where they can all go and kind of gather together, where it's just safe and alcohol-free, and just a place where everyone can just sort of gather together and be together in the moment for the very special time in a lot of people's college careers, having your football team in the national championship game.